Howdy, and welcome to Instructional Technology and Design. Today I want to talk about Chapter 1, which is an introduction to what is instructional design. We'll also talk a little bit about instructional technology as well. So what is instructional design? Here's a great definition. It says instructional design is a systematic process that is employed to develop education and training programs in a consistent and reliable fashion. The important things to note about this definition is we're talking about a systematic process, and we're developing programs that are consistent and reliable. Here's another definition I like from Smith and Reagan. It says it's a systematic and reflective process for translating principles of learning and instruction into plans for instructional materials, activities, information resources, and evaluation. I like this one because it talks about being reflective, because at every part of the systematic approach, we stop and reflect on whether we could make it better. And if so, we go back and we make it better and then go forward. So we're consistently trying to make the training better in this way. So instructional technology is related to instructional design, but a little bit different. Here are a couple definitions. It involves the integration of teacher and student use of knowledge, of tools, resources, and techniques to improve learning. So this could really be anything. It's not really limited to extreme technology you may think of. It talks about tools and resources. This definition I like. It's more of a traditional definition. It's the ability to share information using media-based technology. Okay, so multimedia, things like audio, text, video, images. And we want to facilitate enhanced interaction between educators and learners. So this I like because it talks about how we use technology to engage our learners and keep them interested. So what's the relationship between instructional design and instructional technology? If you think about it, they are related, but the technology really should come after the design. So the design, we would design something and then determine, what's the best technology we can use for engaging our learners. Oftentimes I've seen where companies will say, oh, we have this great new technology and we have to use it. But if you don't have a use for it or a problem to solve, it makes it very difficult. So I really do think design should precede the technology. What do you think about that? Here's a little chart that kind of says that. It says that instructional design is the planning and creation of materials to provide knowledge to learners. And on the right, it says it's based on instructional science or knowledge we have about instruction and learning. So it's not just based upon how somebody thinks it should be. It's based upon learning theories and psychology and different sciences that come into play. But it uses the instructional technology, uses tools and technologies to aid learning. So what's a system and what does systematic mean? A system is just a set of interrelated parts, all of which work together toward a defined goal. So parts of the system depend on each other for input and output, and the entire system uses feedback to determine if desired goals have been reached. You may have heard of systems thinking. This is where we look at learning and training as a systematic process in which every component is crucial to successful learning. So systems thinking can be used to analyze performance problems and design instruction in the best way. So the components of a systematic learning process, we have the instructor, we have learners, we have materials, things like books and PowerPoints and various resources. We have the learning and performance environment. Where is this happening? Is it online? Is it in a classroom? Then we have instructional activities, things like exams and quizzes, discussions, and the delivery system. How are we delivering this training? Is it being delivered through a learning management system, or is it being delivered in person? Okay, but either way, all these things interact with each other. So changes in one component affect other components as well as the learning outcomes. So what may happen if we fail to consider one of these? What if we fail to consider our learners, for example, and I develop this training without regard to who my learners are? Let's say my learners are a group of learners who are retired or maybe over 60, and I'm gearing my materials in a way that really would appeal more to younger learners. See, so we have to consider that because that would affect my materials, my instructional activities, and other things. So every component will be affected by every other component. So the system's approach to learning is a series of steps, and each step receives input from previous steps, and it provides the output for the next step. So they're interrelated parts that are working together toward a defined goal. So parts depend upon each other for input and output. Most instructional design models are based on the ADDIE model of instructional design, and you may have studied ADDIE in one of your prior classes. But ADDIE has 5 parts, as you can see here. And here's a short video that talks about ADDIE. So let's take a look at this.
In this video, I'll provide a general overview of the ADDIE model of instructional design. ADDIE is one of the most popular models for creating training curriculum. The ADDIE model provides learning designers with an essential structure for designing curricula in any learning environment, such as in education, corporate settings, government, nonprofit, or any other organization where learning takes place. ADDIE is composed of 5 essential stages: analysis, design, development, implementation, and evaluation. Let's take a look at each of these in more detail, starting with the analysis stage. At the analysis stage, instructional designers gather information and make decisions that will make the training development process much smoother later. There are several major activities that occur at this stage. Instructional designers identify the training needs. Learning objectives are created that address the needs. They define who their audience is to which the instruction will be targeting. The training content is selected that will help the target audience achieve the learning objectives. The most appropriate delivery methods are then selected. The resources and constraints are established that direct by when the project will be complete, the budget allotted, and the resources available. During this stage, communication begins with those who may be involved in the design or implementation. This may include graphic designers, corporate trainers, and more. This information is used to guide the activities of the instructional designers during the next stage, the design stage. During the design stage, the instructional designer creates the blueprint for the instruction. There are several major activities included in this stage. The learning content and information is sequenced into logical segments or units. Storyboards are created for e-learning modules or training videos. Rough drafts of scripts or training outlines are created. Digital media, print media, and other deliverables are prototyped. Communication continues with the design team and the SMEs. The learning project's instructional, visual, and technical design strategies are documented and reviewed by the relevant stakeholders on the project. These aspects need to be signed off before moving on to the next stage. Once the design of the instruction is signed off by the stakeholders, instruction is moved into the next stage, development. Several important activities happen during the development stage. The developers create, assemble, and organize the digital and print deliverables that were begun in the design phase. Training videos are recorded, edited, and produced. E-learning and any technological aspects of training are tested and finalized. The project documentation of the strategies are further reviewed and feedback is given to the instructional designers. Some or all of the training may be piloted with a select group of individuals, including members of the learning design team. Once the stakeholders sign off on the design strategies, the project is moved into the next stage, the implementation stage. This is the stage in which training actually is delivered. During this stage, videos, e-learning, help aids, and other materials are accessed by the participants. Also, the learners outside of the test groups now participate in the classes and training. Evaluation intersects with each of the other stages of the training process. This involves two major components, the formative evaluation and the summative evaluation. The formative evaluation describes the examination that is done throughout the other four stages of the training process. The formative evaluation allows those involved in the training or curriculum development to recognize potential barriers to the training before they happen, respond to training challenges as they occur, avoid repeating mistakes, and make course corrections as needed. The summative evaluation focuses on examining the outcome of the training during the implementation stage. The information gathered from the summative evaluation continues to guide the project design process. In the ADDIE model, these 5 stages are not always linear. They build off one another, and how this model is implemented will vary depending on the project.
Okay, so there are many instructional design models, of which most of them are based off the ADDIE model. We're going to be studying the Dick and Carey model of systematic instructional design, which is based off the ADDIE model. So if you look at it, you can kind of see the 5 ADDIE phases throughout the model, even though there are more steps to the Dick and Carey model. So it's an interactive process based on feedback. You'll see at every step there's a feedback loop that can go back and revise the instruction and make it better. So this is a systems approach for the design, development, and evaluation of instruction. So the various steps, and we'll go through each chapter in the book covers one of these steps, and we're also going to be going through one of these steps in our semester-long project each week. So each step, remember, each step depends on the prior step. So if you get behind, it's going to be really hard to get caught up. You have to know the prior week when you go into the current week. So the first step is we identify the instructional goals. We have to do a needs analysis or a front-end analysis to determine whether there's a problem. And if there's a problem, can it be solved by instruction? And if it can, then we write a goal. Okay, then after that we conduct an instructional analysis. We determine step by step what the learner will be doing if they're meeting the goal. Then we need to analyze the learners and determine who our learners are. What are their demographics? What's their education? What's their job experience? What are their attitudes and beliefs coming into the training? We also analyze the context where we're going to do the training and the context where the learner will be performing whatever skill we're teaching them. Then we write performance objectives, or a description of what learners will do after they complete the instruction. Then we develop assessment instruments based on our objectives, because we have to know whether learners have mastered the objectives. And then we develop a strategy, and the strategy is the blueprint for the training. Tells us how we're going to achieve the goals and objectives and what kind of activities we're using, what kind of multimedia. And then we develop the instructional materials, and then we do an evaluation. We do a formative evaluation, and lastly, summative evaluation. So you can kind of see these do really coordinate with the Dick and Carey model and the ADDIE model. So why are we using a systems model for instructional design? Mainly because it focuses on what the learner will be able to do after the instruction. It's outcomes based. So we're focusing specifically on the behaviors that someone will be able to do as a result of the instruction. And without this focus, it would be really difficult to plan and implement the instruction. there's an interlocking connection between each component and what's learned. It connects the instructional range of activities to the desired outcomes. And lastly, the instruction can be designed for individuals, multiple learners. It can be reused in consistent results. This is the consistent and reliable kind of part of the definition. So if I spend several hours doing a video for a training, and I use the design model, it will be designed in a way that I can reuse it, and it can apply to multiple learners and situations. So what learning theories underpin the model? First, let's talk a little bit about what is learning. And you learned this in your adult learning class, but just as a little review. So it's really a change in behavior as a result of experience or practice, or acquiring knowledge or skill. It can also be a change in attitude. So really it's a change in knowledge, skill, or attitude as a result of some sort of an experience that someone had. So adults learn differently than children. You learned this in your adult learning class, and we call that andragogy as opposed to pedagogy. So adults have the need to know why they're learning something, and they want it to be related to something that's going to help them in their career, in their life. Okay, they have to be able to relate to this, and they come with a lot of experience. So they also come with preconceived ideas and bias. So we have to take that into account. They like a learning experience that's problem-centered. Okay, so we have to consider this when we're designing training for adults. So the Dick and Carey model is based from two main theories of learning. If you remember the theories, you learned several. The other big one was behaviorism, which really isn't a part of this model. This model is based mostly on cognitivism, which is the mental processing of information. So learners will take information and add it to the information they already have. So it's very proactive, deals with high-level reasoning, information processing. It's also based on a little bit of constructivism. And constructivism is the way you learn that's very hands-on. So it's how the learner interprets the information and applies it to their own life. So it's a higher level problem solving, analysis. It's very hands-on. So Dick and Carey is mostly based on cognitivism, a little bit of constructivism. That's the end of chapter 1. Thank you.